Any idea? How? It is a continuous electronic record of the fetal heart rate obtained via an ultrasound transducer placed on the maternal abdomen. It is referred sometimes as electronic fetal monitoring. It is commonly used in the third trimester of pregnancy, not before that. Third trimester begins at what gestation? What gestational age the third trimester begins? Third trimester. You had attended the class on USG. We had discussed about 3 trimesters. What is first trimester? What is second trimester? 12 to 28, second trimester. Beyond 28 and beyond is third trimester. Okay. This is measured in the third trimester. So it has to be measured beyond what gestational age? 28. It is 28 and not 26, 20, whatever you are saying. It is 28 weeks. So an abnormal CTG, why it is important? It detects the fetal heart rate and fetal well-being. So it may indicate the need for further investigations and potential interventions. That means if the baby is not, say, having optimum health inside the uterus, then either we have to do further investigations or do something. Interventions means you have to do something. That is, either you have to take out the baby or have to give some medicines. So this is the reason why we need to know the fetal well-being. Uterine contraction has definite relationship between fetal heart rate and its pattern, and characteristic changes occur in a hypoxic fetus. That is, when the oxygen supplies goes down, then the fetus is sick. So that will have an impact on the heart rate. So we can pick up this heart rate for detecting the fetal well-being. As first ultrasound transducer is placed on the maternal abdomen to pick up the fetal heart rate, and second one is placed to pick up the uterine contractions. So both fetal heart rate and uterine activity are traced simultaneously onto a paper strip. So this is the graph that is plotted, and we have the heart rate plotted on top and the uterine contractions below. So what is the relationship between the uterine contraction and the heart rate? Uterine contractions will appear when the patient goes into labor, but sometimes few contractions can come during the antenatal period also. Preterm labor can occur, so you can have contractions. So that may have an impact on the fetal well-being, fetal heart rate. This is a indirect evidence. How my heart is going will give me an idea how my health is. So this is how the fetal health is projected. So information on CTG. What will you take down? Name of the patient, registration number, date and time of recording, signature of the doctor or the midwife who is doing it, the posture of mother. When the mother changes her posture from, say, supine to lateral, there may be a change in the blood supply to the fetus that can cause a change in the heart rate. So that position should be mentioned. The speed of paper, 1 centimeter per minute or 3 centimeter per minute. This is the speed of paper is monitored on this x-axis. This is the total block is 10 minutes. So it is either 1 centimeter, the small square, or 3 centimeter. That will depend regulate the rate of the heart rate. So it is either, you have to see on top, see here it is 1 centimeter per minute written. So when you are asked the rate, you have to see what the rate is given on the graph. This is written as 1 centimeter per minute. You should know how to read the CTG. So there is cardiotocograph, two things in it. Heart rate of the fetus and the tocograph is the uterine contractions. So that is the speed of the paper, and drugs administered to the mother, vaginal examination done during labor, BP recording, method of monitoring FHR is through an abdominal transducer and sometimes by an internal transducer, that is through the vagina. That is a fetal scalp electrode. We don't talk about that. We are more accustomed with the abdominal transducer, that is measured from the top, not the internal. Method of monitoring is external and internal. External by the abdominal transducer and internal by the intrauterine pressure catheter. That is the uterine activity. We are talking about the external method only, the heart rate and the uterine contractions. So what are the components? It has a baseline heart rate, normal being 110 to 160. That is the fetal heart rate normal. Then the baseline variability, that is the heart rate changes. It has a 5 to 25 beats per minute variability. This is the normal variability. What do you mean by variability? The heart rate, the changes in the heart rate, there is a connection with the neurotransmitters, the baroreceptors, the chemoreceptors. So if the variability is present, you can say that the fetus is well, because the coordination is working well. That is the baseline variability. Then there will be accelerations. That means sometimes the heart rate will go up. When you do any activity, your heart rate goes up. So when the fetus is moving, heart rate may go up. So that is also a criteria of healthy fetus. And deceleration, heart rate may go down. So there are types of decelerations, early, late and variable decelerations. So the relationship between fetal heart rate and timing of the uterine contraction is also assessed. When the uterus contracts, the fetal heart rate can drop. But it will again come up to the normal level when the contraction passes over. But sometimes it doesn't. The contraction has passed over, but the heart rate doesn't come back to the baseline. So that is a late deceleration. So that can be an important point to say whether the baby is not doing too well. You are suspicious that baby might be having some problem. So these are the criteria. These four things you have to keep in mind: baseline heart rate, variability, acceleration, decelerations. These are the four components. And the relationship between fetal heart rate and the timing of the uterine contractions. So the principle of CTG, it is the change in heart rate recorded by utilizing the physical principle of Doppler effect of USG. Last time we had discussed. Doppler effect means when the USG sends a sound wave, it is, and again it is reflected back. So that is the distance traveled. Here, what we are trying to measure, the heart rate is, the heart is beating. So there is a change in the speed of the sound wave reflected from the heart every time the heart is beating. So this is how it takes up the reading. This is displayed into an electronic device and you are seeing the graphical representation of the fetal heart rate. So transducer is placed on the abdomen where the fetal heart sound is best audible. If you go to the OPD or IPD and if you hear the fetal heart sound with your stethoscope or Doppler, you will hear the heart rate, heart sound, and you will place the transducer on that point only where you can best hear it, because you want to pick up the fetal heart rate. So it has to be properly audible. The transducer emits ultrasound wave and the sensor detects a shift of frequency of reflected sound. So this is the sound is sent and again is reflected back. So every time the heart is beating, there is so many times the sound is getting reflected. That is translated into the electronic device and the graph is made as a display. Signals are electronically modified and made available in printed form on CTG paper. This is the graph. The purpose we all know is used during pregnancy to monitor fetal heart rate and uterine contraction. Commonly used in third trimester, beyond. How many gestation? What gestational age? 28. Say it aloud. 28. You learn from this class. You don't have to go and mug up. You learn here and you take it in your mind. An abnormal CTG may indicate the need for further investigation and potential interventions. Interpretation of antepartum and interpartum CTG differ. Antepartum is when the patient is not in labor. Intrapartum is when she is in labor. There is a difference. In the antepartum period, acceleration is more important. And in the intrapartum, deceleration is important. When will the contractions occur? Mostly in labor. So there will be a change in the heart rate with the contraction. So there the heart rate can dip. So how far it is dipping and how much time it is taking to return back to normal. These are the criteria which will detect the fetal well-being in a laboring mother. But antepartum, what we see is acceleration, whether there is presence of acceleration, whether there is a normal heart rate, normal variability, and 2 or more accelerations in a, if you put a CTG in a normal antenatal patient, you are supposed to see 2 or more accelerations of 15 beats per minute sustained for 15 seconds. That means the fetus is moving. If I am well, I'll move. So the fetus is well, fetus is moving. So there will be an increase in heart rate. That is a good sign. Okay. So that is difference between the antepartum and intrapartum CTG. And deceleration is important in labor and acceleration is important in antenatal CTG. Now how CTG works, the device used is known as a cardiotocograph. It involves 2 transducers, one for the fetal heart rate monitoring and the other for uterine contractions. And one records the fetal heart rate using ultrasound and the other monitors the contraction by measuring the tension of the maternal abdominal wall, providing an indirect indication of the uterine pressure. We cannot measure the uterine pressure clinically. What we can see, you will see the uterus getting tight. So that tense feeling gives you that the uterus is contracting. And if you want to have the exact measurement of the intrauterine pressure, then a catheter should be placed inside the uterus to measure. We don't do that. Usually, for all practical purpose, we measure the contractions by putting a hand onto the abdominal wall and we measure the number of contractions in a 10-minute period. If it is 3 or more, she is going into labor. And how this contraction is having an impact on the fetal heart rate. This is what we are concerned about. The CTG is assessed by a midwife and the obstetric medical team. So a nursing staff, well trained, can give you a very good record of this, how the patient is going on in labor with the CTG tracing. She will give you the feedback. How to read the CTG. This is important. To interpret, you need a structured method of assessment. The most popular structure, say Dr. C. Bravado, define risk. Why we have put the patient on CTG? There must be some reason. Either she is having, say, let's say she has high pressure, she has gone into labor, she is having antepartum hemorrhage. These are risk factors. Twin pregnancy, going into labor, breech presentation, obstetric causes, medical causes. So define the risk. Why you are trying to put in a CTG? So Dr. C. Bravado, C for contractions, BRA for baseline heart rate, V for variability, A for acceleration, D for deceleration, and O is overall impression. This is a mnemonic that will help you to remember the different parts of the CTG. What are the different parameters of a CTG? When performing a CTG interpretation, you first need to determine if the pregnancy is high risk or low risk. This is important as it gives more context to the CTG reading. If the patient is categorized as a high risk, the threshold for intervention may be lower. What does it mean? That if she is a high risk patient, you know that she is hypertensive, she has, say, preeclampsia, she has severe anemia. You have kept in mind that this patient is high risk. So you will not wait too much before you intervene. Lower threshold means you will act more smartly, you will act more promptly. Okay. Now what are the high risk pregnancy, try to remember these: gestational diabetes, hypertension, asthma, anemia, jaundice. This is a medical illness. And obstetric complication, multiple gestation, post-date, previous CS section, IUGR, or what we say now is fetal growth restriction. IUGR term is not used right now. It is replaced by FGR, fetal growth restriction. But if you say IUGR, we will not penalize you. You need to know both the terms, IUGR or FGR. Premature rupture of membranes, congenital malformations. Patient is undergoing induction of labor, say oxytocin or augmentation of labor. Preeclampsia, APH, these are all obstetric complications. In all these patients, we might have to put up a CTG. Other risk factors include absence of patient is not known to you. She has come to the emergency without any booking before. We know nothing about her. So this is a high risk patient because she is unknown to us. So anything that is unknown could be risky. Maybe low risk, maybe high risk. So let us take her as a high risk patient because we have to do the investigations to find out. Smoking, she can be a smoker or having some drug abuse. These are other risk factors. So record the number of contractions in a 10-minute period. That is at 10-minute period, we see how many contractions. Each beat square is equal to 1 minute. That one block is this one. Okay. 1 minute. So look at how many contractions within 10 big squares. 10 big squares. So that is 10 minutes. So in this, if you calculate from here to here, we have 10 minutes, we see 2 contractions in a 10-minute period. And there are accelerations, 2 peaks. And the baseline heart rate, you take an average mean of this. Say it is around 140, 130 to 140. This is the baseline heart rate. And baseline variability is 5 to 25. These small undulations that you see, this is the baseline variability, which ranges from 5 to 25 beats per minute. So you will calculate the individual contractions and as seen as peaks on the part of the CTG monitoring, the uterine activity. Assess the contractions, how long it occurs and how intense it is. This graph is not displayed here, it's not taking up in this system. So it is something like this, in a 10-minute period you see 2 contractions. Now the baseline heart rate, what did I say? What is the normal heart rate? 110 to 160. Keep it in mind. The baseline heart rate is the average heart rate of the fetus within a 10-minute window. Look at the CTG and assess what the average heart rate has been over the last 10 minutes. We usually measure the CTG over a span of say 15 to 20 minutes. So let's say 20 minutes. So you have 2 10-minutes block. In that 10 minutes block, how many contractions you could see and what was the heart rate like, what was the acceleration. So what are the criteria you will see? First, baseline, one of you say baseline heart rate, then baseline variability, then acceleration and whether there is any deceleration. Deceleration is not a healthy sign. We can excuse early deceleration, late deceleration can be pathological. Variable deceleration is definitely pathological. So these are the reasons why you have to learn to classify. So in undergraduate class, you have to know what is heart rate, what is variability, what is acceleration and what is deceleration. The rest you can take up when you take up OBG as your specialty. This again is not coming. So that is the baseline heart rate I was talking about. Baseline heart rate, see if you can see, just turn it around, pass it on. Now when will you have an increase in the fetal tachycardia, that is the baseline heart rate is more than 160. Answer is, it has to be more than 160 because 110 to 160 is the normal. So something beyond that will be tachycardia. So when does it occur? Maternal infection, maternal stress, when the gestational age is lower, less than 32 weeks. Fetal hypoxia chorioamnitis, hyperthyroidism, fetal anemia, tachyarrhythmia, excessive fetal movements, and drugs like atropine and terbutaline. What is atropine? Heart rate? Atropine. Sympathomimetic নয়, ও হচ্ছে parasympathetolytic. That means it is acting as a sympathomimetic. It is not sympathomimetic. It is blocking the parasympathetic fibers. Okay, so what will happen? Heart rate will go up. Sympathetic system pushes up our heart rate. Parasympathetic depresses the heart rate. And terbutaline. Terbutaline is sympathomimetic. It is a beta-2 stimulant. So if you give that, heart rate might go. Why do we use this? Terbutaline is sometimes used to reduce the uterine contractions. It is given to the mother. Then the heart rate of the fetus may go up. So don't get surprised. You have created it. So this is the drug effect. Initially we have said, when you chart out a CTG tracing, you have to mention the name of the patient, registration number, who is examining, how the progress is the labor going on, what medications are given. Maybe she has received this drug. That is why you are seeing a rise in heart rate. Or you can see fetal hypoxia, chorioamnitis is infection of the chorion and amnion. So if the maternal infection, in any infection, when you have fever, your heart rate goes up. So any infection, there can be tachycardia. If there is maternal tachycardia, there will be fetal tachycardia also. And fetal or maternal anemia. Anemia also causes hypoxia. There is a reduction in, what is anemia? You should be able to answer these questions anytime, anywhere in the world. What is anemia? Get up, get up, get up. Get up and say, get up. You are saying the right thing. Why don't you say it aloud? With irrespective of gender and with reference to the height or altitude of the place, ethnicity of the place. These are a cluster of that group of people staying in a place, say in a high altitude. They have polycythemia. So this is why you should, he is mentioning irrespective of gender, and gender is sex, and age. Anyway, that is a different discussion. But if there is anemia, then the heart rate will go up. Maternal or fetal anemia. Then fetal tachyarrhythmia, excessive movements and drugs we have discussed. Now what is fetal bradycardia? Fetal bradycardia will be less than 110. And tachycardia more than 160. So when does that occur? Commonest is say fetus might be sleeping. When you are sleeping, heart rate goes down. Otherwise, it is a post-dated gestation. That means the date has gone beyond the post-dated. Means that is, it has crossed the expected date of delivery by 2 weeks. Post-datism. It is in occipito-posterior or transverse presentation. That means the fetus is in distress. There could be an obstructed labor. That can cause this. Congenital heart block. The baby has congenital heart block. That means the conduction system of the baby is not working well. So they can be fetal bradycardia. Maternal hypothermia, that is mother is feeling too cold or in a very cold place, or cord compression. In labor, sometimes the cord can be compressed. How it can be? Cord has come out, say, before the delivery. There can be cord compression. If there is cord compression, there will be less blood supply from the mother to the fetus. So we can have fetal bradycardia. Or drugs like benzodiazepine. These are all sedatives. So when we go to sleep, heart rate goes down. Or when the mother has received these drugs, that can also cause fetal bradycardia. So you have to find out, when you see fetal bradycardia, the heart rate is less, try to find out whether any drugs have been given. This you can find out easily because that will be written on the paper. Any medications received by the mother and the high risk factor of the mother, whether it was a high risk pregnancy, whether it was a low risk pregnancy. Now, prolonged severe bradycardia. This can be due to cord compression, cord prolapse, or due to anesthesia, epidural or spinal, maternal seizures, that is maternal convulsions, that can cause severe bradycardia or rapid fetal descent. All these are features of fetal distress. The baby is in distress. So what can you do? Baby is in distress within the uterus. What as obstetricians we can do to the baby? You will leave it like that. What will you do? Take out, isn't it? What will be your instinct? Take out the baby. Let's see what we can do for the baby. Nature has done this much. What we can do more? That is why CTG is there. So this is the baseline variability. Refers to the variation of fetal heart rate from one beat to the next, measured in beats per minute. It occurs as a good interaction. That's what I'm saying. If there is a variability present, it has a good interaction between nervous system, chemoreceptor, baroreceptor, and cardiac responsiveness. So the heart, the neurological system, the CVS, the neurological, all are working in coordination. That is why the variability is there. If it is not present, that means something is wrong. And it is a good indicator of healthy fetus. Normal variability indicates an intact neurological system. Variability ranges between 5 to 25. And to calculate it, you need to assess how much the peaks and troughs of the heart rate deviate from the baseline. Have you seen the graph? Who has it? Last? Read it. Read what is the baseline heart rate? Tell me. 140. 130 to 140, and what is the beat to beat variation? Variability is beat to beat variation. See, sometimes it is these small undulations. See how it is going. It is the maximum. It is dipping to, what is this line? 130, and then it is going up. These small ones. See, it's not more than 5 to 25. The small jagged serrations that you are seeing, this is the bit to bit variability. See the number of beats per minute, how it varies from one beat to another. It should be between, what is the range? 5 to 25. The categorization here is reassuring. So if you have a CTG tracing, what are the three categorization? Reassuring, it is all right. Non-reassuring, I am not very convinced whether the fetus is well or not. And ominous or abnormal, the fetus is in distress. So these are the three categories. Reassuring means the fetal heart rate variability will be 5 to 25. Non-reassuring will be, it will be either less than 5 beats per minute for 30 to 50 minutes or more than 25 for 15 to 25 minutes, and that will go up in abnormal. See just a minute, if you buzz in between yourselves, you cannot make a good take home message. Take home message will be clear. What is bit to bit variability, what is reassuring, non-reassuring, and abnormal features. So it is, if the range is less than 5 for 30 to 50 minutes, okay, non-reassuring, but it may get back to the normal, say after some time. It could be a temporary change in the heart rate and the variability due to, say, the change of posture of the mother. Whether she lies on the supine posture, there is less blood supply to the fetus. We always tell the mother to lie on the left lateral side so that the circulation is better. That could be a postural change. And abnormal is if it is persisting for more than, say, 50 minutes, it's almost an hour that the variability has decreased, or it is more than 25 for more than 25 minutes. These are abnormal CTG and you have to be cautious. You might have to take out the baby. How can you take out the baby? Elucius, any other way? Normal labor. Allow labor. If she is not in labor, you might have to induce. But you have to, if you induce, that can cause also fetal distress. See, the medications might cause fetal distress. So this is a double-edged sword. You want to take out the baby. You want to hasten the process. And in the process, you are creating more harm than good. So this is where your balance will be present. As a good obstetrician, you have to retrieve the baby in good health without jeopardizing mother's health or baby's health. So, see, reduced variability when the fetus is sleeping, when there is acidosis, fetal tachycardia, and the drugs that we have mentioned. Have you used magnesium sulfate? Any idea about magnesium sulfate when it is used? Yeah. So, that can cause reduced variability. In premature babies also, it can be reduced variability. Why? Because the neurological system, the cardiovascular system, the chemoreceptors, the barriers are not yet developed properly. That is why the variability is not working. Once the baby is maturing, reaching the third trimester maturity after say 32 weeks onwards, 34 weeks, baby gets matured, all the systems are matured. And of course, during congenital heart abnormalities. Now for the accelerations, this is the acceleration, is an abrupt increase in the baseline fetal heart rate of greater than 15 beats per minute for greater than 15 seconds. This is a very reassuring sign. If the fetus is moving and having an increase in heart rate, your baby is fine. This is a very, very healthy sign. So this is a reassuring sign. Acceleration occurring alongside uterine contraction is a sign of healthy fetus. See, uterine contraction, contraction is causing a peak in the graph and the heart rate is dipping. Okay, it should coincide and again it should come back. Contraction passes over, heart rate comes over. Okay, so but if it doesn't, then the problem starts. The uterus is going on contracting and the heart rate is not returning to normal. So the blood supply from the mother to the fetus is interrupted. That is why the heart rate is not coming up. So something has to be done. The absence of accelerations with an otherwise normal CTG is of an uncertain. If you get an acceleration, we are very happy. Baseline heart rate fine, you get two or more accelerations, you are absolutely happy. And there is baseline variability. So these are the things, normal heart rate, acceleration, baseline variability, very happy. Now you get a deceleration. Deceleration may be early, late and variable. So there is an abrupt decrease in the fetal heart rate of greater than 15 beats per minute for greater than 15 seconds. It is controlled by the autonomic nervous and somatic nervous system in response to hypoxia that we have been going on telling, and the fetus reduces its heart rate to preserve the myocardial oxygenation and perfusion. Whenever there is a hypoxic stress, you try to conserve energy. That is how the heart rate also goes down. The system is trying to combat the situation. Then unlike an adult, a fetus cannot increase its respiration rate. When you go up the stairs, you start panting. You have sort of shortness of breath is there. But the fetus cannot do that. Fetus is dependent on everything for the mother, on the mother. So the placental circulation will give you the oxygen. Lungs will not function like that. So it cannot increase the respiratory rate. The reduction in heart rate to reduce myocardial demand is referred to as deceleration. The heart rate will reduce. This is how the fetus is trying to conserve energy. There are a number of different types of decelerations, each with varying significance. And this is the early deceleration that starts with the contraction, begins and recovers when the uterine contraction stops. This is good. Patient is going into labor, there will be contractions. Without contractions, labor will not happen. But with the contraction, the heart rate will dip and again come back. This is a good, healthy fetus. This is due to increased fetal intracranial pressure causing increased vagal tone. Vagus is stimulated. Vagus is a parasympathetic stimulation is there. So the heart rate drops. Therefore, it quickly resolves once the uterine contraction ends and intracranial pressure reduces. This type of deceleration is considered to be physiological and not pathological. This is early deceleration. Then the late deceleration or variable deceleration is a rapid fall in baseline heart rate with variable recovery. This occurs during labor with reduced amniotic fluid. This is pathological. Variable deceleration, you cannot make out when the heart rate will again return. It is not tallying with the contractions. So this can be ominous. So all fetuses experience stress during labor as a result of uterine contraction, reducing fetal perfusion. While fetal distress is to be expected during labor, the challenge is to pick up the pathological fetal distress. Some amount of distress will be there when the contractions are there, but fetus will be able to fight that out. When the fetus cannot fight, then is the time when the obstetrician has to fight and take out the baby. The cause could be due to umbilical cord compression. So this is the reason of variable deceleration. Types of variable and typical and atypical. This is slightly complicated for you. You can skip this part. This is for postgraduates. And late deceleration is, it begins at the peak of contraction and recovers after the contraction ends. So this is late. This could be due to maternal hypotension, preeclampsia or uterine hyperstimulation. You have induced so much, the uterus contraction is so much that the uterus is not getting time to relax. If the uterus doesn't get time to relax, the blood flow will be not optimum. So that will cause reduction of the fetal heart rate. So you are trying to take out the baby. You are overstimulating. That can cause late deceleration. That can harm the fetus. The prolonged deceleration, if it's more than 2 minutes, then it is prolonged. If it lasts between 2 to 3, non-reassuring. Longer than 3, it is abnormal. And sinusoidal pattern is, here the heart rate is present as a sinusoidal. There is no variability. I'll show you this. Severe fetal hypoxia, anemia or hemorrhage. See, there is no variability. There is a sinusoidal pattern, smooth sine wave of fetal heart rate. No variability. See, the small serrations that you used to see for the beat-to-beat variability is not present. So this is present in case of severe anemia, Rh negative mothers with fetus positive. This can be present. So the overall impression should be, the last CR Bravado, overall impression, you have to stand with CTG. It is reassuring, suspicious or abnormal. The criteria being the heart rate, baseline heart rate, variability, presence or absence, reduced variability, typical or atypical, okay, we are keeping it aside. Variability present or not, baseline heart rate, variability present or not, acceleration present or not, and if there is presence of deceleration, if it is early, okay. If it is late and variable, then you have to stop and see whether we have to intervene, because we can sense that the fetus distress is present. So these are the nice guidelines of having the baseline variability and the baseline heart rate, decelerations and accelerations, categorization of reassuring, non-reassuring and abnormal. So reassuring we all have understood. This you have to remember. This is your normal CTG. Is it a normal CTG? Why? Because the heart rate is within limit, 140 you have said. Variability is here around 15, around, so it is within 5 to 25, 2 contractions, but the heart rate is coming back to normal. So it is a normal reassuring CTG. Mostly you will get a reassuring CTG for your undergraduate exams. Okay, so try to study this. You must be able to read, and the examiner may ask you what is the rate. The rate is written here, 1 centimeter per minute, the small box, and the 10 small box makes 10 minutes. Ask your examiner, I may not be your examiner. Our duty is to make you aware of the most probable things that you are likely to face in the exam. But it may not shadow everything that we say, but it should cover at least 90%. Okay. The non-reassuring, again, the heart rate has gone between 100 to 109. It is 110 was the limit to 109, and the higher side 161 to 180. Baseline variability is less than 5 or more than 25. And any one of these should be causing deceleration that is variable with variable decelerations. These are the criteria. This is non-reassuring. So abnormal CTG we have understood. If you see a heart rate of say 80, stamp it as base, it is absolutely abnormal. And baseline high by variability say 30, it is again abnormal. And you have to see whether it is persisting for what duration. If it is less than 5 for 50 minutes, it is abnormal. More than 25 for more than 25, abnormal. So this is how you will get to know the classification, and thank you for being patient with your patient and patient with your teacher as well. Is it clear? The basic things should be clear. Heart rate, variability, acceleration, deceleration. Makes you any wiser after this class? Not convinced? Makes you any wiser after this class? You had entered the class with a titer of knowledge. Has it gone up? Is it static or is it dipping? So it is a baseline variability should be there, baseline heart rate should be there, and not too much of deceleration should be there. 2 or more accelerations are expected. That is, you acquire more knowledge than me. That is the acceleration. Done. Questions? Any questions?